When Mario Tennis Aces was announced for the Switch, I was pretty excited. Nintendo promoted a story mode, something that hasn't been in a Mario Tennis game since Mario Tennis Power Tour on the Game Boy Advance. Then earlier this month, Nintendo had an online test fire for the game, where you could try it out in an online tournament. I also saw many reviews for the game, which admittedly said it's lacking in single-player content, but many still recommended it. I was confident I was in for a treat. So I bought the game, and to say the least, I was incredibly disappointed. Now, before I start, it's totally cool if you have a different opinion and you really love the game. But for me, it didn't live up to my expectations. But why is that exactly? The biggest problem with Mario Tennis Aces is actually its biggest strength, and that's how excellent the core gameplay is. It takes a basic game of tennis and adds all kinds of new mechanics. You can slow down time to hit the ball you're about to miss, perform zone shots, which are slightly weaker but still effective special shots, and special shots, which are the best move you can get only when your energy gauge is full. And there's even more. But you know what makes it so great? The energy gauge balances everything out, so you have to constantly make decisions such as, should I wait and unleash a special shot and potentially smash my opponent's racket into oblivion, or slow down time to hit the ball? It adds a great strategic element to the game, and I couldn't give the game enough credit for having excellent gameplay. But do you know why this is the game's biggest problem? With gameplay this good, you're going to want to play the game constantly. The problem is the severe lack of content, UI problems, and other issues prevent you from doing so. And that's why it really disappointed me. With Nintendo highlighting the adventure mode in the game, it got many people excited, including myself. I love that aspect of the Game Boy Mario Tennis games, and while not the same, it certainly was cool to have a story mode. What is there of adventure mode is pretty great. You complete a variety of challenges, such as tennis matches or little mini-games like killing piranha plants by hitting fireballs back at them. But there are two major problems. The adventure mode is short. It can easily be beaten in about 4 to 5 hours, and after that, it's game over. And besides a few courts you unlock, you don't unlock anything else to use in any other mode. There are no new characters to unlock, no new rackets, nothing but those few tennis courts. And the characters that you face in adventure mode are already modeled and pretty much ready to be played as, but aren't. More on that later. Another problem is the difficulty. I remember reading somewhere that NES games were made to be difficult because of the rather short length of them. Looking at adventure mode, I feel it is the same case here. First 3 worlds are super easy, but once you reach World 4, it gets very difficult. There's no progression at all and it just goes from easy to hard. It didn't bother me so much, but I can see a lot of players being turned off by it. But what did bother me was a lack of a restart button during missions. If you're pretty much bound to lose, it's nice to be able to start over. But no, you pretty much have to lose and go through a bunch of nonsense text before retrying. This is part of the game's awful UI, which I'll go into more detail in later on in this video. The adventure mode was fun while it lasted, but was a major disappointment, mainly because of how short it was. Even Mario Tennis on the Game Boy Color was a more engaging single-player experience, and that was on an 8-bit handheld in 2000. No excuses. I'll admit, adventure mode was kind of a bummer, but Mario Tennis always shines in multiplayer mode, and there's an increased focus on online gameplay. But first, let's take a look at local multiplayer. As I said, core gameplay is excellent, so you're bound to have fun. But the most basic tasks are just unbelievably tedious. You want to select a stage to play on? Okay, I'll choose a character, then select a stage. But that's not how it works here. You have to go to free play, hit rules, hit courts, then manually turn off every court you do not want to play on, confirm it, then go back, and finally select a character. It's unbelievable that a human actually designed this. With Mario Tennis Aces, Nintendo is treating it as a major online game, almost to Splatoon levels, so much so that they actually had a test fire for it a few weeks ago. But I'm happy to say, the online is mostly pretty great. It's competitive, fun, and runs smoothly most of the time. But sometimes it can get so laggy it's near unplayable, and unless you create a private room with friends, you cannot play any other courses than the stadium ones. But overall, it's a fun experience and the highlight of the game. It's just still lacking in content, and that's a theme I'm noticing throughout the entire game. Adventure mode is way too short. Multiplayer mode has a horrible UI. Online mode, you can't play any of the courts you unlock in adventure mode, and it's kind of limited. You can unlock a new character to play as each month by playing a tournament. I assume we'll get new costume, courts, and more, but that is one of the game's biggest problems. With Splatoon 2, free updates make sense. It never felt like it was severely lacking in content, even with the limited single player and lack of split-screen local gameplay. You just got new weapons and stages once a week or bi-weekly? A-okay. But in a Mario Tennis game, it does not work. As cool as it is to play as Chain Chomp and Spike, you battle against quite a few other enemies in Adventure Mode, but you cannot play as them until they're unlockable in a monthly tournament, which is ridiculous because they're already modeled and ready to play as. The other characters, Birdo, Paratroopa, and Diddy Kong, I can understand why those are being pushed back. But characters that are already modeled and having to wait 4 months for them, and perhaps even more, that is beyond absurd. I get Nintendo does this to keep interest, but a new character once a month will not hype people up. Not only are Adventure Mode and the character roster lacking, the lack of other modes is also a disappointment. In previous Mario Tennis games, you had mini-games, item battle, a basic tennis mode, and a few others, but all you get here is free play, which is fun, but the UI is so bad it makes it tedious to even get started, and then there's swing mode. Personally, I love motion controls. I think it's a great option to have, and what is here makes sense. But it's more of a basic tennis game. And yeah, there's a basic tennis mode where you could use an actual controller, but I will say I had fun with swing mode. But the problem still remains that there is not enough content for the game to feel complete. In short, Mario Tennis Aces is a game that has excellent gameplay and so much potential, but is never fully utilized. The online is mostly good and so is the multiplayer, but I cannot get past how many things in the game are pretty much unfinished. There's a lack of modes, Adventure Mode is way too short, the UI is absolutely putrid, there are a lack of characters, and it overall made me feel like I was a beta tester rather than playing a full game. This is why I can absolutely not recommend buying Mario Tennis Aces, at least for full price. If you can find it for $25, $30, sure, it's worth it for that. But for a full $60 game, it certainly did not live up to the hype that Nintendo was hyping it up to be. I'm sure Camelot can add more content within a year, but the point is, there should be enough content in the game at launch to keep you busy for a while, and it's totally cool to add extra content down the line. You know, maybe some costumes, extra characters like Birdo, Diddy Kong, and Paratroopa, but I don't want to wait a year to have the full experience. This is a game that has excellent core gameplay, but has little to offer besides good multiplayer and adventure mode while it lasts. I can see you guys getting bored with the game easily, so that's why I'm going to say don't buy the game right away. It's just not worth it. I hope you enjoyed the video and it gave you a good look on Mario Tennis Aces, and if you enjoyed the game, that's fine. But for me, it was just a complete and utter disappointment.